episode. It's Eric, and so glad you're here. We've done this visit for several years in a row, 22, 23, 24, third year in a row, to have Dan Finkel in from the Old West End because we're just a couple of weekends away. From what I say is the unofficial, the official, however you're going to word that. Memorial Day is the official start of summer. Labor Day is the unofficial. However you want to word that. To me, the start of summer and festival season here in Toledo and Northwest Ohio is with the Old West End Festival and all the festivities and grandiose good times you can have. It's family friendly, but there's plenty of places to get adult beverages. You can hop on the house tour. You can check out the marketplace. Your kid's going to be in the glass pavilion. The Old West End is almost like a city within a city in a lot of ways. And if you listen to the first 10 minutes of our chat here with Dan, he will illustrate that much better than I just did. So imagine a city within a city having its own festival. It's something to behold, and even if you just do the parade, you're going to have a great time this year. And somehow, we almost always have pretty solid weather for the Old West End Festival. Dan has extra responsibilities this year, extra royal responsibilities. So let's dive in now with King Wamba. As always, it's good to see you, but I have to call you your Majesty this year, right?
Yes. I received a phone call. And they said that I had been chosen to be King Wamba, and I did not know how to respond to that. I said, can I just think about this for a minute, because I've got a job to do during festival and so on and so forth. And I called some friends of mine, and they said, no. If you have anything to do, we'll help you out. Don't worry. Be the king and enjoy it. So I do plan on enjoying myself. Saturday morning, I get to be in the parade and wave to people, and then the parade, we're in the front of the parade, and when you get to the end, we get off the float, and the king and the queen and the royal court sort of sit there as the parade goes by us. Mm-hmm. So we get to watch the
subjects.
Parade. We get to watch the parade from beginning to end. Are
there any more responsibilities? Like, what's it like to have the shoe on this foot this year?
There are no official responsibilities. The past king and queen have, they started a tradition where we do the Queen Sancha dinner, which is a fundraiser to benefit Old West End preservation. And that's been pretty popular. And so I think that'll continue. And then my queen this year, Shelley Varelli, and we may invent some new things that may become tradition or may not. It's really up to the king and queen. They can kind of do whatever they want. They're in charge.
Tell me a little bit about Shelley, how she's involved with the neighborhood, and how you think she might have been chosen.
Yeah, so Shelley has run the social committee, I guess, of the Old West End for a number of years, and really started to make an effort to bring people together through community activities, probably most notably the porch crawl. Mm-hmm. So if you think about a pub crawl, only instead of going from bar to bar, we're going from porch to porch. And it gives us an opportunity to come together and visit neighbors' houses. We usually go to 4 or 5 houses during the evening, 20, 30 minutes per house. There's usually a signature cocktail or a non-alcoholic beverage if you choose that. But it's great because you meet, the Old West End is a big neighborhood, and you could live there for quite some time and still meet new people that have actually lived in the neighborhood for quite some time. And then there's new people that move in, that it's a great opportunity for them to meet the crowd and socialize.
How many years have you lived there now?
I moved to the Old West End in 2011.
What has changed in 13 years, and then even more so as we've moved out of COVID times, if anything at all?
Well, yeah, I think the neighborhood changes. There's a ebb and flow. Somebody restores a house, and then a house falls into disrepair, and then a house is restored. And I think the biggest change has really been in the organization of our social activities. It's really become if you if your social calendar isn't full and you move to the Old West End, we will fill up a number of dates for you, because whether it's summer concerts in the Arboretum, the porch crawls, there's tons of meetings and activities that you can be involved in. People will see when they come to festival. 624 Delaware is a revitalization project, and practically every weekend we've got neighbors that go over to 624 and tear out a wall or put up insulation or help run plumbing or electrical. So there's so many things to do, and I think that's the development. We keep adding new things that you can do and participate in.
When people move into the neighborhood, whether it may be just be renting a place or being in that big apartment complex over there, what's the name of it? There's like dozens of units.
Well, I'm not sure if you're talking about apartments, or many of these large buildings can also be condominiums, like Ann Manor, for example.
That's the one. It's
not really apartments, they're condos.
Got it.
So, you buy into it and there's an association fee.
When people come in, I would think that most people who move into the neighborhood have asked around. They know the reputation. That's something that appeals to them. What is it like when somebody moves into the neighborhood, whether they do or don't know about what they're moving into? Are they welcomed with open arms, that they dragged out to the porch crawls?
Yeah, I think that sometimes people come to the neighborhood and they socialize in the neighborhood, and as a result, when they meet the community, they sort of put it on their list, like, this is the next place I'm going to live, when I make a move. One of the sayings that you'll hear about the Old West End a lot of times is, we came for the houses but stayed for the people. So on the flip side, the people that don't come and hang out and sort of learn about the Old West End and then develop a taste for it, you could be from California, right? And you're browsing homes for sale, and you see a 5,000 square foot mansion with beautiful hardwood, this, that, and the other thing, and it's for sale for $250,000, and you're scratching your head because maybe out in California, $250,000 gets you a small and they can't believe how much house you can get for that amount of money, and they wind up moving to the neighborhood because they fall in love with a house, but then they discover, oh my gosh, there's this community that's also a real treasure.
The community, to everything you've talked about, it just has a reputation that other neighborhoods in the city don't have, for probably a variety of reasons, and not to skew too far away from what you came here to talk about with the festival. But I'm kind of excited for two spots to see the rebirth of the Old South End, and also not far away from the Old West End, that side of Summit, but Vistula district as well. Vistula, maybe a little more in the Old South End, I'm not sure, seems to have the bones that could be another Old West End with all the things you've talked about so far. Yeah,
Vistula arguably is an older neighborhood than the Old West End. Any neighborhood that's close to downtown or the inner city has its challenges, because there was a period of time where people left the city and went out to the suburbs so they could have their, half acre of land and white picket fence, so on and so forth. So they have challenges just like we do, but they have a community like we do. And we actually have supported each other. One time, a number of neighbors went to a tea that was being given in Vistula at one of the historic homes. And, the vibe was very much the same. It's the people that really care about their community and care about the history and the architecture of the community.
And the diversity as well.
Yeah, for sure. Vistula's got all kinds of people from all different walks of life, which is, I think that is maybe a more typical thing that you'll see in neighborhoods that are closer to the downtown area.
Tell me about some of the other people that were given great honors this year. The Grand Marshal, the neighborhood champion.
Yeah. Larry Stein. He was an Old West End resident that's moved away, but he's really stayed connected to the Old West End, and he's always promoting the Old West End. So We do give out several different honors and the neighborhood champion. I'm actually excited because he's coming back to Toledo for a festival, so we'll get to see an old friend and an old neighbor.
Excellent. Grand Marshal?
Grand Marshal is Jessica, Handmade Toledo owner. Basically a big benefit to the community. I mean, if you think about
absolutely
that institution, it's what you would want out of any small business in or near your neighborhood.
Absolutely. Anything new this year? I know some things in the Arboretum have been kind of new. The glow roll. What's on tap for this year that might be a little bit different from the past?
Yeah. So. The glow roll was new last year for the first time, but we're doing it again this year. So if people are interested in riding their bike, dressing it up with lights and riding their bike through the neighborhood Friday evening, we're meeting pretty much at the same location. And if you're wondering, okay, where are things and where do I go? And ToledoOldWestEnd.com. I'll say that several times. ToledoOldWestEnd.com is where you can go and find out, okay, what's the address for where we're meeting for the glow roll. But the glow roll will meet up for snacks and refreshments at 8 o'clock, and then they roll out at 9 p.m. That Friday evening, the 31st. And so this is our second year doing that, and we're hoping it's going to be bigger and better than last year. It is family friendly, so the kids can come so long as they're accompanied by an adult. We do ask that people also sign waivers. We should wear a helmet, but since you're participating in one of our activities, we would like you to sign that waiver and accompany your children. But everyone is welcome in that event, and then several of the neighbors, I'm sure, will dress up their golf carts with lights and roll down the street.
Since we've moved away from 2020, was there a festival in 21? I don't think there.
No, we were out for 2 years. A lot of festivals closed down for one, and we wound up closing down for two because
it was timing, right? We were just rolling out vaccines, and timing, I guess, didn't work out right, just for everybody's safety.
Yes, but I think that the timing really has to do with how long it takes us to plan the festival. The Old West End Festival is not the biggest festival in Toledo, but it might be the largest geographic area festival if you think about the size of the neighborhood. And then if you think about all the different activities, the children's activities, the glow roll, the parade, the bands, the food trucks. So it doesn't revolve around the art fair, the marketplace, and there's 3 different areas. There's the beer garden, Glenwood Park, down by the museum. There's the house tours. There's just so much going on. And if you look at the list of people that are involved in putting this together, it's huge. And so we had to make the decision by January or February. And it wasn't clear, if we could start planning the festival a little bit closer to the summer, we probably would have done it.
Yeah. What have you noticed as far as attendance? Let's wipe out all the COVID stuff. What has attendance been like the last couple of years, going back to 2017, 2013? Do you see more new faces every year and more people in the streets?
I don't have the numbers for some of those previous years. And what's interesting about our festival is because there's no gate to come through. Here's what I can tell you number-wise for last year. I printed this off because I found it interesting. I did this festival by the numbers last year. So we had about 2,800 people come through the home tours.
Okay.
But that's one aspect. Not everybody goes on the home tours. 500 balloon animals were twisted together over that weekend last year. So we have lots of kids, obviously, coming through, but we don't necessarily get to count them, but we went through 63 half-barrel kegs.
Okay.
So there's some beer drinking going on. I don't know how many people that turns out to be, but you can imagine it's quite a few people.
The city's never thrown an estimate your way, even just ballpark, 30,000,
8,000. The neighborhood's probably, if I had to guess, 7,000, 10,000 maybe.
But just eyeballing, would you say it's definitely gotten bigger the last couple of years?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Because it's got a reputation. I mean, this is the 51st time that we've done it. So people that have gone before usually return, and there are always those people too that have heard about it and said, I'd really like to go, and maybe it just doesn't work out. It's first weekend in June. I've noticed a lot of people are, traveling to cottages or whatever. People start to get busy during the summer.
Yeah, and we might have talked about now for several years, there's arguably too much to do on any given weekend. It looks like your weekend is pretty light. I know there's Maple in Maine, but there's some weekends I look up and I feel bad for parents or moms who want to take their kids somewhere. It's like you've got to clone yourself and your kids to get to all these things because it's very different from 10 years ago. There's nothing to do in Toledo is long retired. There's arguably too much to do, and that's not a bad thing.
Here's the great thing about Festival. If you've never been and you want to go, it's always the first weekend of June. So if you want to make time for it, you can literally go to your calendar in 2025 or 2026 or 2027. You can block out that weekend.
Yeah.
It's really been that first weekend of June forever.
What's the origin story of it? And also King Wamba and Queen Sancho. What's the origin of all that?
Okay, so the King Wamba parade, although it might seem like it's old, the Old West End Festival had a parade, and it was actually rebranded the King Wamba Parade in, I think, 2006, as a way to just sort of increase interest and make it bigger. It was sort of a small it's a big parade now. I want to say last year it took 2 hours to get from beginning to end, so, and there are a lot of, there were 80 parade entrants last year.
Yeah.
So it's a long parade. But it didn't start out that way. It started out much smaller. So an effort was made to rebrand the parade. And what they did is they looked back. There was a King Wamba Carnival in Toledo, Ohio in 1909. It was dubbed the Mardi Gras of the North. And it was this crazy, wild, as wild as 1909 can be, party. And they had a person that was crowned King Wamba and a Queen Sancha, and the thing lasted it was like a week-long carnival, but it never materialized ever again until 2006, when just the parade was sort of brought back, and we select a king and a queen as a sort of a shout-out to that
all your
era.
hard work.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, Toledo Spain Plaza, which is where Collingwood and Monroe kind of come together, that's where the parade started downtown in 1909. The parade started downtown and worked its way up to Toledo Spain Plaza, and the coronation ceremony took place there. Many years ago. Now it takes place. Last year we did it on the steps of the museum, the coronation.
You mentioned house tours. What's that like for people? I know that's one of the few things that costs a couple of bucks. What are your suggestions for that?
It's really if you want beer, you have to buy beer tickets. But as far as activities are concerned, you can just come and enjoy the festival. Yard sales. The bands, all that stuff. You just walk around. It's a very walkable neighborhood.
And somehow always good weather.
Yep.
Not to jinx that.
Yeah. We've had a couple of ones that have turned out a little muddy. We have, street buskers, on corners doing acts, music, juggling, whatever. But the house tours, we do sell tickets for that. And that is the big fundraising opportunity for festival, because if you think about 2,800 people that either buy a $20 ticket for all 5 houses or a $10 ticket to just go to one house, you can do advanced ticket sales at a number of locations. You get $5 off. It's $15, cash only. But yeah, the house tours. That's really how festival kind of. You asked about the history of festival. I mean, festival was really designed to show off the neighborhood, and originally they did do house tours so that you could come see what is it about. What are people getting so excited about? And the houses are really fantastic, and there's some great history to the houses as well. And this year, there's going to be at least 2 houses on tour that are really rental properties that have been rehabbed. And so it's nice to have the mansions and the whatnot, but it's also nice to be able to walk through something and go, I can see myself living here. I can see myself in this house. You go through some of the big houses and you're like, well, this is nice, but I don't want to pay the heat bill and I wouldn't want to try and keep up and maintain this mansion. But you're going to get an opportunity to go through a couple of places that you can see how things are being fixed up, and you can see what the opportunity is for people to come and move into the neighborhood.
How often do you think a place for rent or a home to buy pops open in the neighborhood?
The homes to rent probably pop up more often. The homes for sale, that ebbs and flows with the real estate market. Sure. They do pop up from time to time. There's always opportunities to buy houses. It really just depends on what you're looking for. I know when I moved in the Old West End in 2011, and then in 2017 moved out temporarily. And it took me a while to find. I had something very particular in my mind that I wanted, and sometimes you got to wait a year or two before you figure, before something sort of says,
"Buy me.
I'm your house. I'm exactly what you wanted."
What about with so many more people coming each and every year? What's the best way to navigate it, to get to it? And I am going somewhere with that question, but I want to grab what you've got on that.
Well, ToledoOldWestEnd.com. I can't say ToledoOldWestEnd.com enough. People always ask questions like, "Well, how do I want to be in the marketplace, or I want to be in the parade." My answer is always the same. ToledoOldWestEnd.com, and there's literally a drop-down menu in there for festival, and it's literally the parade, everything that you want is in there. There's also a festival map there, and that's key. I would probably download that, keep it on my phone, or at least keep a link to it, and have that map handy, because that's going to tell you the parade route. So the parade starts on Saturday morning at 10 a.m., but you want to get there a little bit earlier and find your spot, bring your lawn chair and camp out. And all that stuff is on that map.
ToledoOldWestEnd.com.
You got it.
Where I was going was, I appreciate that more and more festivals are partnering with Tarta. They're doing more muddy shuttles this year. I'm a Tarta person. I would like to encourage more people to use it. I think it's a very useful product, and maybe is not what you believe you might be stereotyping it as. Has there ever been anything like that where you can run some shuttles from the mall or other parts of town?
There are no special bus routes other than the bus routes that normally go down Collingwood and Bancroft, come through the Old West End, and the normal drop-off spots there. But once you arrive, it's a walkable neighborhood, but that doesn't mean everybody wants to walk from one end to the other. So we do run a shuttle service, and again, that's on that map. You can see where the shuttles. They always stop at all the home tours. So if you want to see all the houses, you can ride the shuttle to each location. But they also stop at Glenwood Park, and they'll stop at the Arboretum where the beer garden is, and they'll stop by the marketplace, near the glass pavilion by the museum. So all the key locations, you can ride that.
I was thinking shuttle, like if somebody wanted to come in from outside the area and maybe didn't want to deal with any kind of parking issues or anything. But maybe that's for something down the line.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's always more that can be added and more that can be done.
How many people are on the team that put this all together every year?
20, 25. I've got the list here, but I don't want to bore you while I count up the names. It's a lot.
I went to the website this morning, and it is extremely comprehensive and very helpful. It's where I pulled all my stuff from. And for so few people to put this massive thing on and to have the infrastructure on that website and everything that happens, like we didn't even touch on a lot of things that there are still to do. It's quite incredible that you guys pull this off with such success every year. So I tip my hat to you. The king has earned his crown.
I appreciate that.
Any final things? We've got the website. Parade is probably the biggest thing that most people look forward to. Anything else we skipped over we should get to?
Well, the only thing I want to say, I did mention Glenwood Park. We added that a few years ago, and that's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and we're really excited to make that happen. Around the festival, you will see for the first time QR codes to do a 50-50 raffle. So if you think about a festival with a few thousand people, doing a 50-50 raffle. We're thinking that prize is going to be pretty spectacular.
Sure.
But also it will add to our fundraising abilities to help the Old West End. The parade, though, I think what people should watch out for this year is last year they did these big giant puppets, a king and a queen. And this year they're adding a dragon, which I think is going to take multiple people to operate it, a wizard, a jester, a lady in waiting, and a knight. And so the puppet section of the parade will be much, much larger. I'm looking forward to that because I thought the big 10-foot tall puppets were pretty cool.
They've given you a full court?
I have my queen has really organized the royal court this year, and they've been getting together and they're sewing sashes and doing all kinds of stuff to make it a real special day.
Whether you want to use unofficial, official, to me, it's the beginning of summer. It's the beginning of festival season here, not just in Toledo, but Northwest Ohio. Thanks for putting it all together.
You're welcome. I hope to see you there, and I hope to see everybody else there. I promise you it's a good time.